Whether it's Gretzky's 99 or Lemieux's 66, the number a player wears is part of their identity. But not every player has a number to himself. Most share with other players. We thought it was time to settle this, and who better to decide than the NHL.com writers? They voted on every number, 1 to 99. Some were unanimous, and some were close calls. We'll reveal the results and bring in some familiar faces to give their thoughts. It's time to debate who wore it best. Welcome to NHL's Who Wore It Best. I'm Tony Luffman. We've had some great discussions and great emotional moments as we've gone through this process. Now we arrive at number 20, and it's a no-doubter. Luc Robitaille, nothing lucky about his career, an 8-time All-Star and a fabulous choice at number 20, which brings us to number 19. And what a challenge it will be for Kelly Hrudey and Keith Jones. The names are really some of the biggest to ever play hockey. Yzerman, Sakic, Trottier, Robinson, Toews. Kelly Hrudey, good luck. You're up first.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Couldn't give us the easy numbers like 99, 68, and 66. I think Keith and I would get those correct, but this is so difficult. By the way, here Keith and I are sweating this out, and you were just talking about Luc Robitaille, number 20, and that's a great choice. But after a game, we'd all be soaked in our equipment. Luc would take off his jersey and his shoulder pads. He'd have the tiniest little bit of sweat right here, and that's it. So, remarkable career, but he never sweat once. Wow. I don't think it's unbelievable. But let's get to number 19. So difficult. I think every single guy you could make an honest case for that they wore it best. So I'm going to go with my former teammate, Bryan Trottier, 6-time Stanley Cup winner, just an incredible athlete, one of the best two-way players in my mind to ever play the game. Calder Trophy winner, Art Ross, Hart Trophy. I just think Bryan was a real combination of everything. He made Mike Bossy a better player, which is incredible that they were just such a great pair together. But there was an element of Bryan that I think most people sort of don't remember, and it's how hard he played the game. And I recall in 1984, we were trying to go to the Stanley Cup Finals for the 5th consecutive time. Conference finals, we're playing the Montreal Canadiens. We're down 2-0 in the series, and Bryan Trottier absolutely annihilated Bob Gainey. And one of the hardest hits I've ever seen in my entire career. That turned the series around. We're able to eliminate Montreal and go to the Stanley Cup Finals. We ultimately lost that to the Edmonton Oilers, but Bryan was the ultimate competitor. And so for that reason and many others, I'm going to choose Bryan Trottier.
It's a great choice, Kelly, and I have the ultimate respect for Bryan Trottier. He was a fierce competitor, one of the more unknown things about Bryan Trottier's game. My memories aren't the fondest of him because he usually ended up winning, but Trottier's a great choice. For me, I'm going to go with Joe Sakic. I think Steve Yzerman, if he doesn't win it, is going to be right there. And Sakic and Yzerman kind of mirror images of one another, one a right-handed shot and one a left-handed shot. But they played the game in a similar fashion. They were both great leaders on teams that were loaded with talent. Sakic kind of gets my biased opinion as the guy because I room with him. He was my roommate when I was in Colorado, and not just a great hockey player, but a terrific teammate. And what impressed me most about Joe, one thing was his shot. He was a shoot-first player, did not play the game selfishly, but shot when he should shoot. And there's a lot of superstar talents that are terrific passers and make great plays, but Sakic had the shot and worked on it and perfected it, and it was something that separated him from a lot of players that have played this game. What I respected most about Joe and got to see in person for a few seasons was his leadership amongst guys that were also great leaders. Some of them maybe even had better leadership qualities than Joe, but he managed them all. Patrick Waugh, net, Ray Bourque and Rob Blake stopped by for a visit. He had all kinds of superstar talents that had unique personalities, and he managed to make it all work. And it might sound easy to do that, but it's not. And Joe Sakic was a terrific captain, and I think the best guy to wear number 19.
A wide open race at 19. So many good choices. Dave Stubbs, the writers for NHL.com had a real challenge at 19. How did it come out?
The NHL.com writers go to Stevie Y, and why not? You look at the quality of this field: Yzerman, Sakic, Trottier, Robinson, Jonathan Toews, almost on a second tier. It's ridiculous the amount of talent of guys who wore number 19. More silverware than in your grandmother's dining room in these guys' cabinets. Let's say that Stevie Y is one of the greatest leaders in hockey history, certainly. He was a selfless centerman who, under coach Scotty Bowman, transformed himself from a great offensive talent to a tremendous two-way player, winning 3 cups in 5 years. And now I can't wait to see what Stevie Y is going to do in the front office of the Red Wings to see if he can bring that winged wheel back to their greatness.
Boy, was he great in that role with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Amazing drafting. Guys like Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, deeper into the draft, not at the top of the selection pool. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, it's number 18, and we're going all the way down to number 11. It's NHL's Who Wore It Best. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to NHL's Who Wore It Best. Jones is the 4th most common last name in America. Savard, a far less common name. Jonesy, we're at 18. And the only thing better than 1 Savard is 2. Take it away.
And one of them broke my ankles every time he skated around me with the puck. That was Denny Savard, the player that had the best moves that I ever played against. He had the spinorama and was phenomenal at creating offensive opportunities. He actually beat me 3 times on one play. That's how well he moved and how inept I was at moving on the ice. But Denny Savard was a phenomenal player. Unfortunately, I'm not picking him. Serge Savard was the guy that invented the Savardian spinorama, and Serge Savard stole that move from Bobby Orr. Savard took it and perfected it and did wonderful things with it, including helping the Montreal Canadiens win numerous Stanley Cups. Had a couple of broken legs that he fought through early in his career and still managed to be an unbelievable player. Scotty Bowman lists him amongst the top 10 best defensemen to ever play the game. And if you're on Scotty's list, that's good enough for me. So I'll go with Serge Savard as the best guy to wear number 18.
Darn it, Keith. You surprised me. I thought you were going to say Denny Savard, and I was going to say, but my choice is Serge Savard for all the reasons that you listed. But, Denny Savard, I'm with you. Oh, my gosh. I hated going, especially in the old Chicago stadium. It seemed as though every time he touched the puck, the people would get up out of their seats, and all the creativity that he had, and he terrorized all of us whenever we had to play against him. But I am also going with Serge Savard. He is also the first defenseman ever to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. I remember watching Guy Lapointe, Larry Robinson, and Serge Savard. Those guys are legends for good reason. So like you, Keith, I'm going to go with Serge Savard.
Great insights from both of you. Dave Stubbs comes on now to tell us if the writers saw it the same way you two did.
Well, they loved a Savard, but it was Denny. Gentlemen, they went with quite comfortably over Serge, and maybe surprisingly, but you can make a very strong case for both. I mean, Denny's career in Chicago was a masterwork, right? In small segments or for his full body, electrifying speed, 5-time 100-point scorer, 30-plus goals for 7 straight seasons. The NHL.com writers went with Denny Savard, but you certainly could have gone with either guy because they were both great choices.
In honor of the Savards, we'll spin our way to a quick break. When we return, we reveal number 17 and then a juicy discussion at 16. NHL's Who Wore It Best. Welcome back. NHL's Who Wore It Best. Great discussion about 18 and 19. Number 17, not much of a discussion to be had other than to just celebrate the greatness of Jari Kurri's game and his hair. Volume, flow, beauty, and he was good at hockey too. Now, that takes us to number 16. Kelly Hrudey, good luck with this one too. Plenty of good choices and big names. Hull, Dion, Clark, Richard, LaFontaine. Take it away.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with my former teammate, Pat LaFontaine, one of the most dynamic players of his time. And of course, I'll never forget the dramatic goal he scored in the Easter Epic in quadruple overtime. But I'm going to talk briefly about Henri Richard, pocket rocket. He was 5'7", but he won the Stanley Cup 11 times. This is with a heavy heart that I'm not going to choose Richard, because I should. A hockey historian should choose him for many, many reasons. Bobby Clarke, to me, was one of my childhood idols. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. Bobby won the Hart Trophy 3 times, which is incredibly difficult to do. I just think of how fierce he played the game. I love the way he was an incredible playmaker. Marcel Dion twice won the Lester B. Pearson Trophy, which is incredibly difficult. The players vote on that one. So he won that in 79 and 80. But I'm going to go with Brett Hull. And it was not an easy choice. I just think Brett Hull was one of the best pure goal scorers in the history of the game. 86 goals one year, one of the hardest shots, most accurate shots. And I have one of the least fond memories a player will ever have. And that's Brett Hull hit me in the groin one time. I was playing in San Jose. And if you want to be gruesome, you can YouTube it. It's all over there. And I must have spent about 5 minutes on the ice. And I had the cold sweats, and it was not a good memory, but I'm going to go with Brett Hull just simply because he was a fantastic player.
That's a scary thought, Kelly. When he wound up, I got out of the way. I can tell you that. I said that's where the goaltender earns his money. He can try to handle Brett Hull's shot. You mentioned Bobby Clarke. I'm going to go with Bobby Clarke. The guy changed my life. He traded for me and brought me to the Philadelphia Flyers from the Colorado Avalanche. Managed to squeak out a few more years out of my career, and I'm forever appreciative of that. But most importantly, it was the way he played the game, and he put hockey on the map in Philadelphia, established another market for hockey in the U.S., and Philadelphia continues to be one of the best places to play, and the fan support has been phenomenal in Philadelphia, and so much of it has to do with what Bobby Clarke brought to the table. You think of Bobby Clarke, you don't think of an amazing shot. You don't think of him as a big guy. You don't think of him as a great passer. He was a very good passer, though, but you do think about him because he was such a competitor. I think he did more with less than anybody that wore that number. And for that, I'm going to give him my respect. And as a young person growing up watching people play, that toothless smile was just embedded in my brain forever. So Bobby Clarke's my guy, but there is obviously a list of great players that also wore that number. But Clarkie with the C in Philadelphia and for what he did for hockey here in this area was phenomenal.
And to have done it all with diabetes. My grandpa had diabetes and was very grumpy. Bobby Clarke, much better mood and an achiever. Let's get Dave Stubbs back here. Who wore it best? Number 16, according to the NHL.com writers.
Tony, we liked Brett Hull. When Bobby Hull is the second best Hull in the family, you know that you've got a decent family tree. 741 goals, 4th on the all-time list. Kelly, you hearken to Henri Richard. Allow me to struggle a little bit with the voting of my colleagues with NHL.com. Henri, 4th in voting? No. NHL record, 11 Stanley Cups, 5 in his first 5 seasons. A better all-around player than his legendary brother, the Rocket, by a lot. I'd say Brett Hull wins number 16 for his offense, and he's a great choice. Henri is my close runner-up for his trophy case and his leadership.
The Golden Brett celebrated as he should be. Quick timeout, and when we return, we'll reveal number 15 on the countdown, and then have a couple of very spirited discussions. Number 14 and number 13. Who wore it best? To number 15, and a name that's beloved among Bruins fans. And Dave Stubbs, when it comes to the history of the NHL, no one knows it better. You know why Milt Schmidt was so special.
Oh, Tony, just a phenomenal talent, a great two-way player, inspirational leader. This man was the face of the Boston Bruins before number 4 became synonymous with that franchise. He centered the Bruins' Kraut line, Bobby Bauer and Woody Dumart, and these guys might have been a dynasty in Boston if the Second World War hadn't actually torn that team apart. That entire line went off to war together, and in their final game before they went to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces, the Montreal Canadiens put those 3 guys on their shoulders and skated them off the ice with Old Lang Syne playing on the organ. So you try to imagine that today.
That story gave me goosebumps. I can't imagine not being moved by that story. Wow. Jonesy and Kelly Hrudey have their work cut out for them again. As we stop at number 14, you've got some huge names here. Keon, Shanahan, Fleury, Jonesy, you're up.
For me, it's a guy that I didn't love. I hated playing against him. It's Brendan Shanahan. I learned some valuable lessons against Brendan early in my career. I was playing for the Washington Capitals against the Blues at the Checker Dome. And the good news is we won the game 9-6. The bad news is I woke up Brendan Shanahan. Early in the game, I took a double minor roughing penalty against him. He chased me around the ice every shift after that, wanting to kill me. It was not a comfortable night for me. And he ended up with 6 points in that 9-6 loss. And after the game, David Poile, the general manager in Washington, took me aside and he said, Jonesy, there's certain players in this league that you don't want to wake up. And that's one of them. And I have the utmost respect for the way Brendan played the game because of his toughness. That was the one thing that really stood out to me. Not only was he an extremely productive player, he would punch you out if you bothered him enough. And he could fight the heavyweights, but he also put fear in the guys that had a little bit of a question on just how tough they were themselves. And you can put me in that category. So Brendan Shanahan was that guy. When I look at the Red Wings team, I was watching a documentary about the Russian Five and their influence on getting Detroit over the top to win their first Stanley Cup before that run. I would say, okay, but I would argue that Brendan Shanahan was the player that made the difference on that team. And I think the best guy to ever wear number 14.
Oh boy, I've changed my mind so many times on this one. And initially when I saw the list, I automatically went to Dave Keon. You know, I grew up watching Hockey Night in Canada, and Keon was a legend. Calder Trophy winner, 4-time Stanley Cup winner, did everything the right way. He was a wonderful playmaker, just a grace to his game. And then I moved on to Theo Fleury because he was one of the guys that I really, really, really hated to play against. He was a little ball of hate. You know, you've heard that expression about Pat Verbeek and other guys. And Fleury came every single night to the rink in a bad mood. But he was so talented, so productive, one of the all-time greats to ever play. But like you, Keith, I'm going to go with Brendan Shanahan, the ultimate power forward. He's a big man, hard to control. What a great scoring touch, that right-handed shot, lethal and great accuracy. Brendan Shanahan is my guy as well.
So our experts are solidly behind Brendan Shanahan. Dave Stubbs for the NHL.com writers. Was he the guy to wear number 14 best?
As usual, when you guys turn left, we turn right. NHL.com has gone with Dave Keon in a very interesting race with Brendan Shanahan, though. Keon was voted by a blue ribbon panel in 2016 as the greatest Leafs player of all time. Kelly spoke to some of his winnings. Jonesy, forgive me for laughing about Shanahan chasing you all over the ice. I don't know if he had a Gordie Howe hat trick that night because his 17 Gordie Howe hat tricks have him tied second all time on that list, one behind Rick Tocchet.
Extraordinary intel, as always, from Dave Stubbs. We move along to number 13 in our countdown. And among the choices at 13, Pavel Datsyuk, who provided the greatest elevator ride I've ever been a part of. You know the Datsyukian hands. His hands are full. The night of the NHL 100, but he's still able to hit the floor. I swooned. My wife looked at me like, what's wrong with you? Kelly, please tell me he's your guy.
Oh, Tony, I love it. And yes, he is. But I want to give you a little bit of intel on the other two guys. Teemu Selanne, 76 goals in his rookie year. The skill level of this guy. Matt Sundin was a true superstar. I don't think he fully got the credit that he deserved. In my opinion, he had the best backhand shot in the history of the game. But I'm going to go with Datsyuk for so many different reasons. 3-time Selke Trophy winner, maybe the best guy at the takeaways, defensively so great. But the skill that really grabbed my attention early on is the way in which he was able to stick handle in tight. Now, this is a trait that I think that I first saw it with the Soviets, and now, of course, they're called the Russians. But in close to their feet, the way in which they can stick handle is remarkable. Datsyuk was just a phenomenal player, made everybody around him better. And overall, his game, he has my attention.
He's my guy as well, Kelly. That's a great description of how he played the game. And somehow, while stick handling in and around his feet, he managed not to get knocked down. He was extremely deceptively strong in his skates. And that was a big reason why I think he was so productive in his career. Impressive the way he defended as well, a reliable player in all situations. And he really looked like he loved playing the game. It looked like it came easy to him. It looked like it was just something that he was born to do. And I loved watching him play. And I think a big reason why Detroit was so successful for so long. You know, great story about Solani as well. I was a rookie the same year that Teemu Solani was. I was a 23-year-old rookie, and he broke into the league as a kid and scored the 76 goals. I thought I was doing well. I had 12 my rookie year. So if my math's any good, he had 64 more than I did. So it's an amazing career for Solani from that point on. Didn't wear 13 throughout it all, but he wore it well that rookie season. But Datsyuk is the guy for me.
Jonesy, I love your modesty. The Finnish Flash, that rookie year was special. Let's get Dave Stubbs involved to see who wore it best.
It's unanimous, boys. Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel edged them both, maybe deked them both out, given the way he handles the puck. Couple of cups, 3 Selkies, 4 Lady Bings, an offensive powerhouse, perennially the Red Wings' leading scorer. On those hands, if Pavel Datsyuk is not playing hockey, he's in a symphony orchestra, because I would suggest those hands are those of a concertmaster violinist.
Sweet music, well put by Dave Stubbs, as always. The countdown moving along from Pavel Datsyuk to number 12, Jarome Iginla. The NHL.com writers recognizing his excellence, a career with longevity, and certainly some mountaintop moments for Canadian hockey fans. They'll never forget the primary assist on Sidney Crosby's golden goal. For USA hockey fans, it hurts, and that was 2010 in Vancouver. At number 11, the NHL.com voters made it unanimous, and who can blame them? Mark Messier. He remains the only captain to lead 2 different franchises, the Lord Stanley's Cup, part of the Oilers dynasty in the 80s, and then taking the New York Rangers to the summit in 1994. I could guarantee you we were going to have a great show with Kelly Hrudey and Keith Jones and Dave Stubbs. I also guarantee we're going to have a fantastic final show. When it comes to 10 down to 1, we'll have an hour to debate and discuss some amazing discussions to be had there. That wraps up this show. NHL's Who Wore It Best. Thanks for watching.